Hello, my gorgeous ladies. Welcome to another episode of Lingerie and Lattes. I am so excited to be back here with you. My name is Olivia Drumaga, and I founded Vulcan Ability back in 2020 as a way for women to connect back to their sensuality and create a monogamous, loving, lasting relationship with their male partners. And this journey has really taken me into this section of my work, which would be the lingerie and lattes, which is all a process of my own thoughts and my own emotional understanding of how we're going about the world as women, whether it be towards our own selves, our relationships, or anything that really helps us to be more in alignment with who we are as we live our lives. So there's other sections of my work which include only historical facts and a lot of data that I focus my attention on science or any sort of logic. This one is a lot more of an open, free space for me to kind of discuss what's on the mind. And in order for a woman to prepare in the fall season and the winter season, I wanted to consider the subject of slowing down, which I've shared before in a previous video regarding women needing rest and the desire for our lives to be a lot slower than they usually are. But I just want to take a step back and think about how the world goes through its own cycles of the seasons, and knowing how summer and spring are a lot more vivacious in nature. They're a lot more about growth and a blossoming or just an awakening. And fall and winter are a lot more of coming to a closure, going inward, contracting, if you think about the cool winter season. And this kind of nature exists both in the world and also within ourselves because we are a microcosm of the earth. And so there are seasons going on inside of us as well as outside of us. So this is a discussion for a different video, the seasons going on within a woman. And right now, I'd like to simply focus on the external seasons that are happening and how we can adapt to them. So if we think about our modern day and age, we live mostly indoors. We spend our time mostly indoors in unnatural light. We have basically no connection to our circadian rhythms. There's usually an alarm that wakes us up. We usually go to bed way past sundown. And there's this constant sense of urgency. Whether it's real or perceived, there's still this sense of urgency. If it's regarding finishing, let's say, your college degree, whether it is starting up your business, having a certain level attained in your business, or having a certain family life, or having a certain home, or a status symbol that you think is important in the world, such as a car or a certain luxury item or a vacation of some sort. There's always this sense of pressure. And that is completely unnatural and disconnected with our earth and the way nature unfolds itself, because there's always a perfect timing within nature. There would be no pressure for a seed to grow and sprout within the winter time because it simply knows it's not its time yet. And if we kind of take that concept and apply it to our own selves, noticing where we are with regards to the earth and its seasons, and where we are internally with our woman season, we can kind of start to correlate when we're more inclined to create and produce in the world within ourselves and also externally, and when it is best to come back into rest. So this brings me to this idea of inward energy for this northern hemisphere, because we are going into the winter season. Now we're in fall already. So if we think about what it means for the earth during fall, there's a lot of leaves dropping, there's a lot of releasing and a letting go and a shedding. So this shedding can also be happening internally in our own psyches, because again, we are a mirror of the earth. That's the idea of as above, so below. We have the idea of the earth changing seasons. And so internally, we are also going through our own release and a fall season. So it is best to focus our attention now on not what to create anew, but what to really release from our lives. And this could be related to any particular area where you feel like, let's say, you've put in a lot of attention, a lot of effort into this one project, and you've been wanting to launch it off the ground, and it simply has not been happening. Perhaps it is best to put that to rest. And you have to remind yourself that things go in cyclical order. So perhaps in a different point in your life, that project can then be taken back up, dusted off, and brought back to life. However, if there's something that you've put in a lot of attention on and there's no fruition happening, perhaps it's best to simply put it to rest and knowing that the right time will come for if and if that is a part of your if that is a part of your path, then it will come about at the right time and it will come back into your passion, into your point of view as you go through life. So taking a step back from your current day to day and just noticing maybe there's a relationship, a friendship that you've been nurturing, but it really feels like it's draining a lot of the times. Maybe there's certain conversations you're having either with your partner or your friends or your family or your coworkers where you're noticing there's a certain pattern where you're constantly harping on one single topic or theme within your life. Maybe it's time to re-examine that theme. So let's say it could be the idea of not feeling like you're perfect enough or like going far enough in life. So maybe it's the idea of perfectionism. Maybe just allowing that to be put to rest and kind of embracing a whole season of chaos would actually counterbalance what you've been struggling with. So instead of looking at the resistance and continuing to push into it, perhaps it's time to actually take a breather, take a step back, and allow for something different to show up in life. So this could also relate to relationships and friendships, as I've mentioned. It may not be just a single conversation, but perhaps some relationships need to end. So let's say last year around this time, I think I let go of about two really strong friendships that I used to have for an extended amount of time because it felt comfortable. It felt like I kind of owed them something in a way. We've gone through a lot. And so we were kind of, in my idea, in my mind, we were somehow on this journey together, even though our aligned values were no longer in alignment, they were disjointed, and any sort of conversations and time that I would spend with these people would now make me feel just like I guess more confused regarding life, a little bit more depressed is not the right word, but perhaps lacking hope for our world and just kind of rudimentary. So, letting go of the relationships that I felt were causing me to focus on subjects that had no value in my life and my spiritual purpose, that made me free up my time and my energy to then focus on different projects. And those different projects then led over to a new sub chapter of my life, and I was able to move on and so forth. So, remembering for ourselves that letting go and actually focusing on things that we want to remove from our life is just as important as creation. We don't always want to be building something new if our foundation, let's say, doesn't have the right soil. So there's a metaphor here. If we're not nurturing our soil and our foundation, we might have toxins that are reducing the amount of nutrients in the soil. And the more you're planting, the more those ideas and those seeds can't take root. So the reason we have these two strong seasons, fall and winter, externally and internally, is to really reevaluate ourselves and where we are in the world and start to come to a bigger understanding of who you are to yourself. Knowing how much you've changed throughout the last year or from one season to another can give you more perspective into what you really value and desire to continue nurturing in your life and what sometimes you have just become grown apart from. So, in order for us to do these things and help us in this transition of letting go, of noticing things that are not serving us, to me, it's very important to do like soul nourishing activities during these winter months. And that really takes time to slow down, go back a little bit more, let's say, into the home life, a little bit more indoor time, intentional indoor time. So you're not going to, let's say, a park for a picnic, but maybe after a nice stroll in the fall weather, which is a little crisp and chilly, and you're having that fresh air in your lungs, a little bit after that, maybe you want to come home and intentionally enjoy a hot beverage and just start to notice how that goes in your body, how it kind of warms you up from the inside out, maybe meditating upon something, or simply enjoying the moment and the actual sensation of drinking your choice of beverage. And some things that I really enjoy in this season include hot apple cider, there's cacao, there's tea, which for those of you who don't know, my Sex in the City blends are phenomenal for this season, especially the throat one, because it actually has mullein, which is helps you to release any sort of coughing that might happen, and also just soothes the throat a lot. So it's not only good for your throat chakra and speaking up as a woman, but it also has physical benefits during the seasons where your immune system could be a little bit compromised or simply affected with the change of temperature. So look into that if you haven't already on my Etsy and also my Vulcan Ability website to grab your cup for the season. And if you want to get a little bit more adventurous, you can make your own uh, mulled wine. So potentially buying a nice red or white wine, whichever you prefer, and putting it over a simmer, never a boil, but a nice low simmer to warm up the wine itself, and throwing in some oranges, some cloves, some star anise, any sort of spices that really speak to you that are all warming to the body and the soul. And it's a good idea for your activity when you have finished that intentional cup of hot beverage. And maybe during it, maybe you want to take out your journal and simply write out the question of what am I letting go from my life right now? Or what am I allowing to fall apart? Or what am I observing in myself that's becoming distant? Anything that allows you to question something you've become really attached to as your identity that maybe doesn't sit right with you anymore because you've evolved. And again, maybe that just simply evolves as all businesses evolve. Pretty much anyone who has had their own practice after a certain number of years, that practice shifts, whether it's your methodology, whether it's your actual service offering, or your main mission. That could stay true to yourself, but perhaps the way you go about your mission could change. So being aware and in tune with ourselves and in the seasons can help us to go through them a lot with a lot more ease. Many times I hear from people who do live in the northern states, in the northern hemisphere, that they become really like mood depressed because of the lack of sunlight. And these are all real effects that we have on the body when we don't have as much sunlight as we did before. There is a certain sense of sadness or this sort of contemplation. I would like to rephrase the idea of sadness or disdain for the cold or the winter season, and more see it as this feminine that we're going into, this sort of depth, the subconscious, the dark sense of our inner being, understanding, what is a part of our shadows, what has been maybe inhibiting us from going further in the direction we wanted to go in our lives, just allowing ourselves to be a fluid being versus this rigid modern society construct, which is just always on, always never taking a break, always having this sort of sense of urgency, as I've mentioned, and just this constant push. So instead of pushing during these seasons, I would invite for us to actually just sit back. It's to me this idea of the yin yoga where you only do 60 or 70% of effort and allow the rest to be taken care of by nature, for allow gravity to do the work, and really just allow yourself to sit back. And that is such a beautiful concept that I feel like many of us are devaluing because our society is so hell-bent on constant creation and productivity and a sense of achievement, where really the true achievement, the true success of life is when we can just sit back and look at our fruits of our labor and really relish in them. So there is value in creating, and there is value in providing ourselves the right sort of motivation, but it's all in due time. And usually when we sync up to the seasons and allow them to take the rest that they want within our bodies and within our time, we become a lot more relaxed and we kind of can embrace the beauty of fall and winter. So this would also be a fantastic time to do a Yoni Steam, which I don't sell those on my own yet, but there are really great companies that are doing organic blends of things like calendula, rose petals, red raspberry leaf. Like there's many herbs that can help tonify and also detox our spiritual vulva and our spiritual yonis from whether it's negative experiences we've had, people who have taken advantage of us, ways that we've also deceived ourselves into believing that we're ready to move forward in an intimacy when we're really not, giving into pressure that we may not be so inclined to give to. All of those experiences kind of live within our energetic imprint in the yoni area, in the womb area, and they manifest themselves as either PMS symptoms, really intense cramping, migraines, back pains, vulva pain, breast tenderness. So PMS symptoms are usually a reaction from the body asking for us to listen to it. So, if we think about the idea of a woman menstruating for hundreds of thousands of years, it's never supposed to really be a debilitating experience. It's actually supposed to be empowering one if we are living within our own cycles. And if we are not, then it is going to be a really rough experience because our bodies are feeling untaken care of, unnourished, and forced. They're being forced to do something against their natural nature. So please remember, in order for us to embrace the external seasons and work with our internal ones, it's time for us to really sit back, reassess where we've come in this past year, notice what we're looking to release from our lives in order to make space for something new that wants to show up. Many of times there is a desire for sacrifice from the universe. In order for you to achieve something new or receive a new manifestation, you do have to be willing to let go of a past belief, a past thought, or a past attachment. So even if it is a mental disconnect from achievement or success status or belief that you should be recognized by this authority or that authority, just that sort of internal letting go can also create energetic space for the right things to show back up in your life. So thank you so much, my amazing woman, and I will speak with you all next week. Till then, have an absolutely magical week.